The red alert klaxons had been silent for 3 days aboard the Crimson Dawn. Admiral Vorth found this lack of emergency particularly annoying as his massive battle fleet crossed into the unknown sector. 300 warships moved through space, like a metal storm cloud, their hulls gleaming under distant starlight. The Caltharian Empire had sent its finest warriors to investigate strange energy readings that had appeared on long-range sensors 2 weeks ago. Vorth walked through the command center, his 4 arms clasped behind his back in the traditional pose of authority. His purple skin showed the ritual scars of a dozen conquered worlds, each mark telling a story of victory over inferior species. The bridge crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency, monitoring the vast fleet's movements through hyperspace. "Admiral, we are approaching the target coordinates," announced Tactical Officer Grimm, his voice carrying the slight tremor that always appeared when addressing superior officers. The young soldier had never seen real combat, having graduated from the academy during peacetime. Soon, Vorth thought, that would change. The view screen flickered to life, showing the vast emptiness of space ahead. This sector had never been explored by the Empire, lying far beyond their established borders. Intelligence reports suggested the energy signatures came from some kind of primitive civilization, probably early spaceflight technology that posed no real threat. Still, the Empire's policy was clear. Any species capable of space travel must either submit to Imperial rule or face complete destruction. "Sensors are picking up a single vessel," reported the detection specialist, her voice filled with confusion. "Admiral, the readings are unusual. The ship appears to be very small, roughly the size of one of our escort frigates. Its construction seems primitive, using basic metal alloys rather than advanced composite materials." Vorth laughed, the sound echoing through the bridge like thunder. "A single ship? These aliens send one tiny vessel to face the might of Battlefleet Omega?" He moved to the tactical display, studying the energy signatures. The unknown ship showed minimal power output, no detectable shield generators, and weapon systems that barely registered on their sensors. "Open a communication channel," Vorth ordered. "Let us see what these creatures have to say before we vaporize them." The communications officer worked at her console, cycling through various frequencies. After several minutes, she looked up with surprise. "Admiral, the alien ship is broadcasting on multiple channels simultaneously. They appear to be using dozens of different languages, but our translation computers are having difficulty processing the signal." "Put it through the speakers," Vorth commanded, settling into his command chair. The bridge fell silent as static filled the air, followed by a clear, strong voice speaking in accented but understandable Caltharian. "This is Captain Rivera of the UES Defiant. You are trespassing in human space. Leave immediately, or face the consequences." The bridge erupted in laughter. Several junior officers had to steady themselves as they giggled at the absurdity of the situation. A single primitive ship was threatening an entire battle fleet, the most powerful military force the Caltharian Empire had ever assembled. Vorth wiped tears from his eyes as his laughter subsided. Did this Captain Rivera just order us to retreat? Does this human understand that we could destroy their pathetic vessel with a single shot from our smallest escort ship? He stood up, straightening his ornate uniform. "All ships, power weapons. Target the human vessel and prepare to fire on my command. We will make an example of these insolent creatures." The tactical display showed 300 ships moving into attack formation, their weapon systems charging with deadly energy. The human ship remained motionless, apparently making no attempt to flee or defend itself. Vorth found this behavior puzzling, but attributed it to the primitive nature of the aliens. "Weapons charged and ready, Admiral," reported the weapons officer. "All ships report ready to fire." Vorth raised his hand, preparing to give the order that would end the brief encounter with humanity. But before he could speak, something impossible happened on the tactical display. The human ship simply disappeared from their sensors, vanishing, completely as if it had never existed. "Where did it go?" Vorth demanded, his voice rising with confusion and anger. "Find that ship immediately." The sensor operators worked frantically at their consoles, running full-spectrum scans of the surrounding space. "Admiral, there is no trace of the vessel. It has completely vanished from all detection methods. Suddenly, proximity alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. The massive view screen showed the human ship materializing directly behind the Crimson Dawn, so close that individual hull markings were visible on its strange angular hull. "Impossible," Vorth shouted. "No ship can move that fast. Our sensors would have detected any hyperspace jump." Before anyone could respond, the human vessel fired a single, brilliant beam of white light. The energy struck the Crimson Dawn's hull with surgical precision, cutting through the massive dreadnought's advanced armor as if it were made of paper. Alarms shrieked as hull breaches opened throughout the ship, but these were no ordinary weapon. Impacts. The beam seemed to simply erase matter wherever it touched, creating perfectly smooth cuts through solid metal. The great ship shuddered and groaned as its structural integrity failed. 10,000 crew members had barely enough time to realize what was happening before the Crimson Dawn split apart like a broken toy. The explosion lit up space for several seconds, the debris expanding outward in a sphere of twisted metal and shattered dreams. Admiral Vorth died with his ship, never understanding what had killed him. The human vessel had already vanished again, reappearing near another Caltharian warship. The same white beam lanced out and another proud vessel of the Empire died in silent fire. Across Battlefleet Omega, panic spread like wildfire. Ship after ship exploded as the human craft moved among them with impossible speed and precision. It appeared and disappeared at will, striking without warning and vanishing before return fire could be targeted. Each attack lasted mere seconds, but every shot was perfectly aimed at critical systems. The few surviving ships that managed to escape into hyperspace carried with them a story that would shake the Caltharian Empire to its very foundation. They had encountered something beyond their understanding, something that treated their greatest military achievement as nothing more than target practice. Captain Rivera's final transmission followed them into hyperspace. "Tell your Empire that humanity claims this sector. Any further incursions will be met with appropriate force." Commander Hawk's hands shook as he tried to file his combat report. The escape pod's emergency systems hummed quietly around him, a stark contrast to the chaos he had witnessed just hours before. His ship, the battle cruiser Storm's Edge, had been one of only 12 vessels to escape the massacre in the Terran sector. 300 ships had entered that cursed region of space, and barely a dozen had fled with their lives. The rescue beacon finally connected to the Empire's military network, and Hawk found himself face to face with General Corax on the communication screen. The old warrior's scarred face showed deep concern as he reviewed the preliminary damage reports. "Commander, your initial transmission mentioned the complete destruction of Battlefleet Omega. I need you to explain exactly what happened out there," Corax said, his voice carrying the weight of 40 years of military service. Hawk took a deep breath, knowing how insane his report would sound. "General, we encountered a single human vessel. It destroyed the entire fleet in less than 20 minutes. The technology they displayed defies everything we know about physics and warfare." The general's expression hardened. "Commander, I understand. You have been through a traumatic experience, but I need facts, not fantasies. How can one ship destroy 300 of our finest vessels?" "Sir, I recorded everything on my personal data recorder. The evidence will support every word of my report." Hawk activated his wrist device, projecting holographic images into the space between them. The recording showed the human ship appearing and disappearing at will, each attack resulting in the complete destruction of a Caltharian warship. Corax watched in stunned silence as the footage played. The human vessel moved in ways that violated basic laws of physics, existing in multiple locations simultaneously, before striking with weapons that seemed to ignore the Empire's most advanced defensive systems. "Stop the playback," Corax ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Commander, are you certain this recording has not been altered or corrupted?" "General, I stake my career and honor on the accuracy of this data. What you see is exactly what happened. The human ship possesses technology that makes our greatest achievements look like primitive tools." The recording continued, showing the systematic destruction of the Crimson Dawn and dozens of other vessels. Each attack followed the same pattern: instantaneous movement, precise targeting, and complete annihilation of the target. The human weapons appeared to work by simply erasing matter from existence rather than using conventional energy or kinetic force. How did they move like that? Corax asked, studying the footage of the human ship's impossible maneuvers. Our sensors show the vessel disappearing and reappearing without any detectable energy signatures associated with hyperspace jumps or conventional propulsion. Hawk shook his head in bewilderment. Sir, our best scientists spent the entire escape journey analyzing the sensor data. They believe the humans have somehow learned to manipulate space-time itself, folding reality to move instantly between locations. It's not faster than light travel as we understand it, but something far more advanced. The general paused the recording on an image of the human ship firing its devastating weapon. The beam of white light looked deceptively simple, but the destruction it caused was absolute. What about their weapons? Our ships carry shielding that can withstand direct hits from stellar bombardment. The human weapons don't interact with our shields at all, Hawk explained, calling up additional sensor readings. They seem to operate on a subatomic level, directly affecting the molecular bonds that hold matter together. Our defensive systems are designed to deflect or absorb energy, but these weapons bypass physical defenses entirely. Corax studied the technical data streaming across his screen. Energy readings, particle signatures, and gravitational measurements all painted a picture of technology that shouldn't exist. The human ship generated power levels that exceeded anything in the Empire's arsenal, yet did so within a hull smaller than most Caltharian escort vessels. Commander, according to these readings, the human ship was generating enough energy to power an entire star system. How is that possible, given its size? Sir, our engineering teams believe the humans have mastered some form of zero-point energy extraction or matter-antimatter annihilation at near 100% efficiency. The power requirements for their weapons and movement systems would normally require massive fusion reactors, but their ship shows no external signs of such technology. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Imperial Intelligence Service. Director Malik's stern face appeared on a secondary screen, his expression grim with worry. General Corax, I have been monitoring this debriefing. I need to speak with Commander Hawk immediately about the technical specifications of the human vessel. Hawk spent the next 4 hours answering detailed questions from the Empire's top scientists and intelligence analysts. Every piece of sensor data was examined, every fragment of debris analyzed, every witness statement recorded and cross-referenced. The conclusion reached by the Empire's greatest minds was both simple and terrifying. Humanity possessed technology that was centuries ahead of anything the Caltharians could comprehend. Dr. Vex, the Empire's leading theoretical physicist, presented his analysis to the assembled leadership. Based on the evidence provided by the survivors, the humans appear to have solved several fundamental problems that have plagued our civilization for millennia. They have achieved practical faster-than-light communication, matter manipulation at the quantum level, and energy generation that approaches theoretical maximums. What does this mean for the Empire? Asked General Corax. It means, Dr. Vex replied slowly, that if the humans chose to attack us directly, we would have no defense. Their single ship demonstrated the ability to destroy our most powerful battle fleet without sustaining any damage. If they possess multiple vessels with similar capabilities, they could end our civilization whenever they choose. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Caltharian Empire, master of 7 star systems and conqueror of dozens of species, had encountered something that could destroy them as easily as stepping on an insect. Commander Hawk's final words in his official report would be remembered for generations. We did not fight humans today. We witnessed gods of war who showed us mercy by allowing anyone to escape at all. The Imperial archives stretched for kilometers beneath the capital city of Calthar Prime, their climate-controlled halls holding 50,000 years of recorded history. Director Malik had never expected to spend weeks wandering these endless corridors, desperately searching for any mention of a species that seemed to have appeared from nowhere. His team of researchers worked around the clock, scanning through millions of documents, star charts, archaeological reports, and first contact records. The Empire had encountered over 400 different species during its expansion across the galaxy, and detailed files existed for each one. Surely somewhere in this vast collection of knowledge, there would be some reference to humanity. Director, we have completed the search of all first contact protocols from the past 10,000 years, reported Chief Archivist Luna, her voice heavy with exhaustion. There is no record of any species calling themselves human or originating from a planet called Earth. Malik rubbed his tired eyes, feeling the weight of his investigation pressing down on him. 3 days had passed since he began this search, and every lead had ended in disappointment. The humans had appeared in Imperial space like ghosts, possessing technology that defied explanation and origins that seemed to exist outside recorded history. What about the linguistic analysis? Malik asked, following Luna deeper into the archives where the Empire's most sensitive information was stored. Our translation computers identified dozens of different languages in the human transmission. Luna pulled up a holographic display showing the results of their language research. Director, this is where things become even more mysterious. The human languages show no relationship to any known linguistic families in our database. They appear to have developed completely independently from every other form of communication we have encountered. The display showed complex charts comparing grammatical structures, phonetic patterns, and vocabulary roots. Human languages formed a completely isolated group, sharing no common ancestry with the hundreds of alien tongues cataloged by Imperial scholars. Furthermore, Luna continued, several of the languages appear to be ancient, showing evolutionary patterns that would require thousands of years to develop. This suggests the humans have been spacefaring for far longer than their primitive technology would indicate. Malik studied the linguistic data with growing confusion. Are you suggesting that humanity is actually an ancient civilization that has somehow remained hidden from the Empire for millennia? Director, I honestly don't know what to suggest anymore. Every piece of evidence we uncover only deepens the mystery. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Vex, the Empire's chief scientist, who entered the archives carrying a sealed data container. His usually composed demeanor showed cracks of stress and confusion. Director Malik, I have completed my analysis of the debris recovered from Battlefleet Omega. The results are troubling. Dr. Vex activated his own holographic display, showing microscopic images of metal fragments that had been blasted away from Caltharian ships during the battle. These samples show evidence of weapon effects that violate several fundamental laws of physics as we understand them. The images revealed metal that had been cut with impossible precision, leaving edges smoother than anything achievable with conventional technology. More disturbing were areas where matter appeared to have simply ceased to exist, leaving behind perfectly spherical voids in solid steel. Doctor, are you saying the human weapons can make matter disappear? Malik asked, though he already suspected the answer. That appears to be exactly what happened. The weapon effects show no signs of vaporization, melting, or molecular displacement. The targeted matter was simply removed from reality at the subatomic level. I cannot even begin to theorize about the energy requirements for such technology. Malik felt a chill run down his spine as he contemplated the implications. If humans can manipulate matter at that level, what else might they be capable of? Dr. Vex's expression grew even more troubled. Director, that's not the most disturbing discovery. Analysis of the human ship's energy signatures suggests they were operating at only a fraction of their full capability during the battle. The power levels we detected could theoretically be scaled up by several orders of magnitude. The three scientists stood in silence, surrounded by the accumulated knowledge of galactic civilization, yet feeling more ignorant than ever before. Somewhere in the galaxy, a species existed that possessed godlike technology and origins that defied all recorded history. We need to expand the search, Malik decided. Contact every species the Empire has ever encountered. Send diplomatic missions to our allies and tributaries. Someone, somewhere, must have encountered these humans before. Over the following weeks, urgent messages flowed out from Calther Prime to every corner of the Empire and beyond. Diplomatic contacts were activated, trade relationships were leveraged, and even hostile species were approached with offers of temporary truce in exchange for information about humanity. The responses were universally disappointing. The Viridian Collective masters of interstellar trade routes, had never encountered humans in their extensive travels. The Zephyrian mind web, a collective consciousness that spanned dozens of worlds, contained no memories of any human contact. Even the ancient crystalline entities whose recorded history stretched back hundreds of thousands of years had no knowledge of Earth or its inhabitants. It was as if humanity had spontaneously appeared in the galaxy, fully formed and possessing technology that made them essentially invincible. The impossibility of this scenario troubled every scientist and historian in the Empire. Ambassador Nix returned from a diplomatic mission to the Andromedan Gateway, the Empire's most distant outpost, with news that only deepened the mystery. Director, I spoke with refugees from 3 different galactic sectors. None of them have any knowledge of humanity, but several mentioned encountering other unknown species with advanced technology in recent years. Malik leaned forward with interest. Other unknowns? Similar to the humans? Not exactly, sir. The reports describe different technologies and different approaches to first contact, but all of them involve species that seem to have appeared suddenly, with capabilities far beyond local civilizations. The implication was staggering. Humanity might not be unique in the galaxy. There could be multiple advanced civilizations operating beyond the knowledge of established powers, each possessing technology that bordered on the miraculous. As Malik filed his final report on the investigation, he included a recommendation that would shock the Imperial Council. The Empire should immediately cease all expansion activities and focus entirely on defensive preparations. If the galaxy contained multiple civilizations like humanity, the age of Caltharian dominance might be ending. His last entry in the classified files read simply, Species classification, human. Origin, unknown. Technology level, transcendent. Threat assessment, existential. Recommended action, complete avoidance. Emperor Thakros paced the length of his private war room, his heavy footsteps echoing off polished stone walls decorated with the banners of conquered worlds. The holographic display before him showed the largest military assembly in Caltharian. History. Grand Fleet Terminus. 5,000 warships arranged in perfect formation around his personal flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Your Imperial Majesty, with respect, this course of action carries enormous risk, cautioned General Corax, his weathered face showing deep concern. The intelligence reports clearly indicate that humanity possesses technology far beyond our current understanding. The Emperor stopped pacing and turned to face his military advisor, with eyes that burned with imperial pride. General, I understand your concerns, but we cannot allow a single alien vessel to humiliate the Empire without consequence. Word of our defeat has already spread to 3 neighboring systems. If we do not respond with overwhelming force, every subject species will begin to question our authority. Thakros moved to the tactical display, gesturing at the massive fleet formation. 5,000 ships represented nearly half of the Empire's total military strength, including planet-killer weapons capable of reducing entire worlds to cosmic dust. The flagship alone carried enough firepower to destroy medium-sized moons. Director Malik's investigation found no trace of these humans in our historical records, the Emperor continued. This suggests they are a recently emerged civilization, probably possessing only a few advanced vessels. We will crush them with sheer numbers and demonstrate that no species can challenge the Empire's dominance. Admiral Zix, commander of the Grand Fleet, stepped forward to present his tactical assessment. Your Majesty, our battle plan calls for a coordinated assault using quantum torpedoes and gravitational disruptors. Even if the human vessel possesses the technology displayed in the previous engagement, it cannot possibly survive the concentrated firepower of 5,000 ships. The Emperor nodded approvingly as he reviewed the attack formations on the holographic display. The plan called for the fleet to emerge from hyperspace in a perfect sphere around the target area, eliminating any possibility of escape. Every ship would fire simultaneously, creating a zone of destruction that would vaporize anything within 1,000 kilometers. How long until we reach the Terran sector? Thakros asked. 6 hours, Your Majesty. All ships report ready for combat operations. journey to human space passed intense anticipation. Throughout the massive fleet, crew members prepared for what many believed would be the most important battle in Imperial history. Veterans spoke of past victories, while younger sailors tried to imagine the glory of participating in such a significant military action. Emperor Thakros spent the final hours in his private meditation chamber, following the ancient rituals that prepared Caltharian rulers for warfare. His ancestors had conquered dozens of star systems using courage, determination, and overwhelming military superiority. Today would be no different. When Grand Fleet Terminus dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Terran sector, the sensor readings immediately proved that the Empire's assumptions had been completely wrong. Instead of finding a single human vessel, the long-range detectors identified 7 ships of varying sizes, arranged in defensive formation. "Your Majesty, we are receiving a transmission from the lead human vessel," reported the communications officer, her voice tight with nervousness. On the main view screen, a stern-faced human admiral appeared, wearing a simple uniform that looked primitive compared to the elaborate dress of Caltharian officers. The man's gray hair and lined face suggested considerable age and experience. "I am Admiral Stone of the UES Liberty. You were warned that further incursions into human space would not be tolerated. This is your only chance to withdraw your forces and avoid unnecessary bloodshed." Emperor Thakros laughed, the sound carrying clearly across the bridge of his flagship. "Admiral Stone, you are facing the combined might of 5,000 warships. I suggest you surrender immediately and spare your crews the futility of resistance." The human admiral's expression remained unchanged. "Emperor Thakros, you are making the same mistake as your predecessor. We do not wish to destroy your fleet, but we will defend our territory against all aggression." "You know who I am?" Thakros asked, surprised that the human had identified him personally. "We know exactly who you are, Your Majesty. We also know the capabilities of your fleet and the weapons you carry. None of it will make any difference in the outcome of this engagement." The Emperor's patience finally reached its limit. "Admiral Stone, you will witness the true power of the Caltharian Empire. All ships target the human vessels and fire at will." 5,000 ships opened fire simultaneously, unleashing a barrage of destructive energy that lit up space like a newborn star. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, gravitational disruptors, and particle beams converged on the 7 human ships from every direction. The combined firepower was sufficient to destroy entire planets. For several seconds, the human vessels disappeared completely within a sphere of pure destruction. Every sensor on the Imperial fleet registered successful hits as weapons that had never failed before found their targets. Then the light faded, and the impossible became reality. All 7 human ships remained completely intact, their hulls showing no signs of damage despite being subjected to the most concentrated bombardment in galactic history. They hung in space like monuments to the futility of conventional warfare, utterly untouched by weapons that could level continents. "How is this possible?" whispered Admiral Zix, staring at sensor readings that defied all logic. Before anyone could answer, the human ships began their counterattack. They moved with the same impossible speed and precision that had destroyed Battlefleet Omega, but now there were 7 of them working in perfect coordination. The slaughter was systematic and merciless. Human vessels appeared and disappeared throughout the Imperial formation, each attack resulting in the complete annihilation of Caltharian ships. Unlike the previous engagement, the humans seemed to have abandoned any pretense of restraint. "Emperor," Thakros watched in growing horror as his magnificent fleet was reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The Eternal Dominion, protected by the most advanced shielding technology ever developed, proved just as vulnerable as the smallest escort frigate when white beams of light touched its hull. "All ships retreat," the Emperor finally ordered. But it was already too late. The human vessels had surrounded the entire fleet, cutting off all escape routes with their impossible movement capabilities. In 23 minutes, Grand Fleet Terminus ceased to exist. 5,000 ships and over 50 million crew members died without inflicting a single casualty on their attackers. The Emperor's flagship was among the last to fall, its death broadcast across the Empire as a final testament to the futility of challenging humanity. Admiral Stone's voice followed the few scattered survivors who managed to escape the carnage. The Empire has now received 2 warnings. There will not be a third. Princess Valara stood in the ruins of the Imperial Command Center, surrounded by the debris of shattered dreams and broken pride. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across walls that had once displayed the banners of 1,000 conquered worlds. The news of her father's death and the complete destruction of Grand Fleet Terminus had reached Calthar Prime just hours before, carried by the few ships that had escaped the massacre. The Empire's greatest military leaders lay dead in the cold vacuum of space along with the Emperor and 50 million of their finest warriors. What remained of the Caltharian government, huddled in emergency sessions trying to understand how their civilization had gone from galactic dominance to existential crisis in less than a month. Your Highness, the Governor's Council is demanding immediate military action, reported Chancellor Drake, his normally steady voice shaking with barely controlled panic. They want to mobilize every remaining ship in the Empire for a final assault on human space. Valara turned away from the damaged viewports that had once offered a commanding view of the capital city. At 28 years old, she had never expected to inherit the throne under such circumstances. Her education had focused on diplomacy and administration, not crisis management in the face of species extinction. Chancellor, how many ships do we have left that are capable of combat operations? She asked quietly. Approximately 2,000 vessels, scattered across our 7 systems. Most are older designs or garrison forces that have never seen serious combat. And what do our military advisors believe would happen if we sent these ships against the humans? Drake hesitated before answering. Your Highness, General Korax estimates that our remaining fleet would survive approximately 15 minutes against 7 human vessels. Valara nodded slowly, having expected such an assessment. She had spent the past few hours reviewing every piece of intelligence about humanity that the Empire had gathered. The picture that emerged was of a species so technologically advanced that conventional warfare became meaningless. What about our tributary species? How are they reacting to news of the Empire's defeats? That is perhaps our most immediate concern, Your Highness. 3 systems have already declared independence, and our intelligence services report widespread unrest on a dozen occupied worlds. Without our military superiority, the Empire's control over subject species is beginning to collapse. The irony was not lost on Valara. The Caltharian Empire had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for millennia. Now that a superior force had demonstrated their vulnerability, the carefully constructed system of dominance was crumbling like a house built on sand. Chancellor, I want you to send a message to every remaining military commander in the Empire. All ships are to avoid the Terran sector completely. Any vessel that receives orders to attack human space is authorized to ignore those commands. Drake looked shocked by this unprecedented order. Your Highness, such a directive would effectively acknowledge the humans as a superior power. The political implications could destabilize the entire government. The government is already destabilized, Valara replied firmly. The Empire, as we knew it, ended when those 7 human ships destroyed our greatest fleet. We can either adapt to this new reality or face complete extinction. Over the following weeks, Valara implemented changes that would have been unthinkable under her father's rule. Military expansion was halted completely, with resources redirected toward defensive systems and diplomatic initiatives. The Empire's policy of aggressive conquest was officially abandoned in favor of peaceful coexistence with neighboring civilizations. Most significantly, she established the Department of Unknown Species, tasked with identifying and avoiding contact with any civilization that might possess technology similar to humanity's. The galaxy, it seemed, contained mysteries that the Empire was not equipped to handle. The changes were not without resistance. Several military commanders attempted coups, arguing that the Empire's traditions demanded revenge against the humans regardless of the cost. These rebellions were quickly suppressed, not through military action, but through the simple logic of survival. Even the most militant officers could not argue with the reality of their situation. Director Malik was appointed to lead the Empire's new approach to interstellar relations. His first official report painted a sobering picture of the galaxy's true nature. Your Majesty, our investigation into humanity has revealed that advanced civilizations may be far more common than we previously believed. We have identified at least 12 species or entities that appear to possess technology beyond our understanding. Valara reviewed the classified files detailing these discoveries. Mysterious signals from empty space, abandoned worlds showing evidence of impossible engineering projects, and scattered reports of encounters with beings that defied conventional physics. The Empire had been operating under the assumption that they were among the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, but the evidence suggested they were merely children playing with primitive toys. What do we know about human intentions? Valara asked. Are they planning to expand into our territory? Surprisingly, Your Majesty, the humans appear to have no interest in conquest or expansion. Our monitoring stations detect minimal activity in the Terran sector, and they have made no attempt to contact any other species since our encounters. They seem content to remain in their claimed territory and be left alone. This behavior puzzled many Caltharian leaders who could not understand a species that possessed ultimate military power, but chose not to use it. The Empire's entire worldview was based on the belief that might made right, and that superior civilizations naturally dominated inferior ones. Perhaps, Valara suggested to her advisors, true advancement includes the wisdom to know when not to use one's power. The official records of humanity's encounters with the Empire were carefully classified at the highest levels of security. Future generations of Caltharians would learn that their civilization had once reached the peak of galactic power before encountering forces beyond their comprehension. Captain Rivera's patrol mission report, filed with Human Colonial Command, was equally brief. Encountered aggressive alien empire in sectors 7 through 13. Threat eliminated with minimal force. Colony ship convoy can proceed to New Geneva as scheduled. Local space is now secure. In the depths of the Terran sector, construction continued on humanity's newest colony world. The 7 ships that had ended an empire's dreams of conquest were already reassigned to routine patrol duties, their crews unaware that their actions had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. The universe, it seemed, had room for both the ambitious and the wise. The Caltharian Empire had learned which category they belonged to, and the price of that education would be remembered for generations to come.